Jim, this question was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi.
I swear to God.
Matt Hardy recently said Vince McMahon and Bray Wyatt had almost a father-son relationship. Hardy said, and here's a quote, "When he liked Bray or loved him, he was all about him. But when he disliked him, oh my God, it was really bad, and he would punish him and insult him. To me, it was so strange. It was almost like a parent." What are your thoughts on Matt Hardy's take on the Wyatt-McMahon relationship?
Well, I don't know. You know, I have yet to ever meet Bray Wyatt in person as a human being. Don't know anything about him. I've obviously have met Vince numerous of times, but he seems to have changed, you know, as we've talked about in a number of ways over the past number of years. But he's had and you've heard some of the other guys talk about it. It's kind of like a father-son or a mentor relationship where he's had that with some guys, the top guys that made him money. He always tried to be tight with. Sometimes he succeeded, and sometimes they could never get on the same page, Ultimate Warrior. But I didn't normally see in those days Vince working with a guy personally and insulting him or berating him. Maybe there was a little ribbage going on, but people were laughing. It wasn't like, you fucking, because Bill Watts would do that. He'd call you a blithering idiot. He'd call his son Joel a blithering idiot. Or he would yell, or he would, make a blah, 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 but he was trying to make a point like a football coach. And now everybody's sensitive and everybody thinks, oh gosh, John Laurinaitis said, "You're not supposed to yell at them, Corny. You're supposed to empower them." I said, well, I ain't got time to empower because I'm doing this myself and yelling's quicker. But I never heard Vince just verbally eviscerating or bullying or tearing some guy apart in front of a bunch of the other guys, like if Matt Hardy was just standing around kibitzing or whatever. So I don't know what to make about that. That's his observation. But maybe it was Vince, because a lot of that Fiend shit was just caca, just garbage. We've talked about it. The burning alive and all that stuff. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Vince was not liking the Fiend as opposed to not liking Bray Wyatt or whatever.
Well,
but anyway,
let me just say this.
And Matt don't know the difference because Matt Hardy was teleporting himself on national television. So he doesn't know what's rotten wrestling and what's not anymore.
Every single time we talk about this stuff with Bray Wyatt, we usually do get a few people that email us or get in touch via Twitter, and they'll say something along the lines of, he wasn't happy either. The stuff you're seeing, you're assuming it was all his.
True.
Vince and that team wanted to do that stuff maybe more than Wyndham Rotunda wanted to do the Bray Wyatt Fiend stuff.
So maybe that indeed is true as well.
I guess to the question, did Vince typically run hot and cold on top stars like that?
Oh, yeah. Vince runs hot and cold on everything. Not everything all at the same time, but there is nothing immune from Vince's hotness and coldness. He will. How many times has he given up on Lex Luger, Vader, other, even probably more glaring examples that I'm not thinking of, where you just give up on something in the middle of it, or just change direction, or just a guy can go from the penthouse to the outhouse, or, he's decided to take a different approach to this issue or whatever. Vince does go hot and cold and get tired of things if they're not coming to fruition, materializing, shaping up like he thought they would. Then he gets tired of it and goes on something else. He's not going to sit there and beat a dead horse. Again, Vince McMahon's a guy that used to plan a year ahead of time from WrestleMania to WrestleMania. Before I got there, Bruce used to tell me we would start at WrestleMania next March. Here it is, June, and work backwards. Well, Vince completely got off that, but now there's Tony Khan trying to do the same thing where he calls a champion 2 years in a row or 2 years ahead of time. But Vince would have changed his mind probably a dozen times, even in those days between June and March. And, so Again, Vince is strange. He likes something until somebody points out something about it he doesn't like, and then he can't get that out of his head. Or he perceives something from somebody, or somebody does something or says something that just makes him get that fucking shit-sniffing face, and then he's off of it.
It's always been surprising to me how many guys, like even some of the ones you wouldn't suspect, like maybe the Ultimate Warrior, but how many guys would say like Vince was a father figure to them at various points.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before. Vince has had a friendship and or some level of affection for a lot of guys, but I don't think he would have ever said to any of the boys, "You're just like Shane to me." Whereas that's what some of the guys, the impression they've gotten from their dealings with Vince. But as we know, Vince will fire somebody out of the family and say, "Well, it's business. What time are you going to be here for Christmas dinner, pal? Hope you get a new job."